All right, I see people are just logging in now, so we'll give it a few minutes while everyone joins. Wow, great turnout.
Great turnout.
Wow. Yeah.
All right. All right, let's go ahead and get started. And if people want to join as we go, that's fine too. Thanks everyone for joining us today for the American Pacific Mining Corporate Overview and Update. My name is Kristina Pillon. I handle investor relations for American Pacific. I'm pleased to introduce your speakers today, CEO Warwick Smith and President Eric Saderholm. Just to do some housekeeping, if you have a question, please look at the bottom of your screen. There's a Q&A box. Enter your question there. We're going to do our best to get to as many questions as possible toward the end of the presentation. But if we don't get to your question, feel free to reach out to us either by phone or by email. Also, this presentation will be recorded. We'll post it to our website. But if you would like me to send it to you directly, I'm happy to do that as well. I guess without further ado, I'll hand it off to Warwick.
Perfect. Thanks, Kristina. Really appreciate you setting this up, and I appreciate everybody coming to learn more about American Pacific. I will share screen, and myself and Eric Saderholm, who's here joining me, will walk you through the company. Okay, American Pacific. You're standing at the Madison mine here, looking back towards the highway, and at our forward-looking statement here, you're looking down from sort of a bird's eye view, looking down on top of what is a small portion of Madison. So American Pacific. Last year, we did a transformative transaction on this company. We picked up the Madison mine in partnership with Rio Tinto. Asset is in Montana, and Rio Tinto may spend up to $30 million US to earn 70% of the project. It is a high-grade skarn at surface with a porphyry underneath. Rio Tinto is drilling as we speak. We have two other assets in the company. We have the Gooseberry mine, which is a past-producing silver gold mine just outside of Reno. We're going to touch on that shortly. Very excited to talk about that and our plans for that this year, as well as the Tuscarora, which is a high-grade epithermal system just outside of Elko, Nevada, which is where Eric lives. Let me tell you how we got Madison, because I think everyone's going to enjoy this sort of part of the story. This is actually an asset that Eric and I looked at in 2016. We went down, went underground, really liked it, but another company beat us out and was able to buy it really before we got a chance to negotiate on it. They did great work. They came in, they drilled it in 2017, they drilled it in 2018, they drilled into the porphyry. And then in April of 2019, they brought in Rio Tinto as the partner. That was April. 2 months later, June of 2019, they halted the company from trading, and they turned it into a psychedelics company focused on medical mushrooms. So it was at that point that we saw an opening, reached out to their CEO, and was able to negotiate to purchase the Madison mine along with the partnership with Rio Tinto for what at the time was a $2.4 million valuation. We were thrilled to get the asset. It really is that sort of transformative move for the company. And then as of this year, we've been nominated by S&P Global Platts, which is a top 6,000 website in the world, for their Global Metals Awards for Deal of the Year. So it is ourselves, Cleveland Cliffs, US Steel, and Granges, which are all multi-billion-dollar companies listed on New York, that are up for the Deal of the Year transaction. So we're very, very pleased with that, and hopefully we'll win. Here's the corporate structure. So 84 million shares issued, $4.2 million in cash, about $5 million of warrants that are in the money, and a burn rate of around $100,000 a month. Please don't let that low burn rate fool you. We have drilling as we speak. Rio Tinto is in the midst of a 4,000 meter drill campaign. So we'll have significant news going forward. but we're partner funded. So right now we're free carry. We don't have to spend our money drilling. They are spending the money. That burn rate is going to increase because we're planning on drilling Gooseberry this year, which we'll touch on shortly. We'll spend about $1.5 million there doing that. Michael Gentile, as many of you probably know, joined us as a 19.9% shareholder just about a month ago. He is been a tremendous shareholder for us, has opened a lot of doors, has really helped shine a spotlight on the company, for which we're very thankful. So let me tell you a bit about the Madison Copper Gold project. Again, partnered with Rio Tinto. They may spend up to $30 million US to earn 70% of the project. This was last in production between 2008 and 2012. It produced 2.7 million pounds of copper, between 20 and 35% copper. So when I'm referencing high grade, that is what I mean. Very, very high grade copper. 7,570 ounces of gold also came out at 16.1 grams per ton gold. That is all from the skarn. As I mentioned, in 2017, they also drilled into the porphyry, which is, I think, what really caught Rio Tinto's attention, both the high grades in the skarn and the fact that there's a porphyry down below. We are 48 kilometers away from the Butte mine, which is the third largest porphyry in the world. That produced 21 billion pounds of copper, 715 million ounces of silver, and 3 million ounces of gold. Ultimately, if there's a big porphyry down below, anything near that size, it will be a tremendous win for American Pacific shareholders. Here's the exploration program that's ongoing right now. So Rio is drilling 4,000 meters. Their initial plan was to do both core and RC drilling. They have changed that up to just do core drilling. They did some trenching, where they encountered some visible gold, which they were excited about, hence switching over to core. So they'll be drilling that with core instead of RC. They're also going to do a drone magnetic survey. That's going to start up in a couple of weeks here. Actually, sorry, in about a week now. Here's some historical drill highlights. And this is, this really captured our attention when we first saw the project, just based on the grades. And these are all from approximately 0 to 200 meters, all within the skarn. 30 meters of almost 25 grams per ton gold, 11 meters of 41 grams per ton gold, 4.6 meters of 82 grams per ton gold, 7 meters of 25 grams per ton gold, and then 14 meters of 12 grams per ton gold. And then great copper numbers, 61 meters of almost 7% copper, 8.5 meters of 40% copper, 8.4 meters of 1.89% copper, and then 2.7 meters of 41 grams per ton gold and almost 20% copper. Suffice it to say, with the spotlight on the company now and excitement within the company now, within the general investing public, and gold prices, copper prices doing well, any drill results like this from Rio will make a tremendous difference. So we look forward to seeing what their drill results come out with this year. Here's the location. If you can see my cursor, that big star right there is the Madison mine. We're just above Silver Star, Montana. Great place to do mining, very much a mining district. If you fly into Montana, you would likely fly into Butte, which is up to the north here. And then you take the drive down, you'd pass a Barrick's Gold and Sunlight mine. And it's about a 1-hour drive from Butte. Here are the terms of the JV. So Rio Tinto gets up to 11 years to spend the $30 million US. So far, they've spent $3.88 million US in the first 2 drill campaigns, 2019 and 2020. And they're doing a significant campaign this year, with which they're in phase 1 of right now. There's a quote here at the bottom for me, which I'll reiterate verbally as well. Owning 30% of a Rio Tinto size target could be a tremendous win for American Pacific shareholders. Plus, you have the other high-grade assets in the Western US that we own 100% of. Reservoir Minerals is a great example. They had an asset in Serbia, which they were teamed up with Nevson. They owned 30% of it. It was a epithermal system at surface with a porphyry underneath, so similar geology. They ended up selling that deposit. Their 30% got sold for $360 million US. With that, I'm going to pass off to Eric. He's going to walk you a bit through the geology here, and then I'll come back in and wrap up and take you through the other 2 projects.
Okay, well, thanks, Warwick. This is a cross-section of the copper shape that is essentially at Madison right now, as it's currently understood. Several episodes of drilling are put onto this section. So it's a lot broader than just a single section. You can see how well the copper holds together, which we would expect. The emphasis obviously has been mainly on the close to surface skarn due to the grades, and that's understandable. Of course, Rio is in the process of putting together the science with their magnetics and other studies and geochemical studies and trenching. So they're looking for the big payoff. They're looking for a big mine, say 20 or 30 year mine life type thing. But this holds together quite well, and you can see that it's open off to the left, which is where they're drilling currently right now on the phase 1 program. This is the same section on with gold. So the gold is a little spottier, but the grade can be very good. You've seen some of the values that have been drilled in the past and that Rio has drilled as well. So open once again off to the left side of this slide. That's where the drill is on its 5th hole at the moment. So they're making some good progress. I'm heading up there actually in a couple of days to review the project with them.
Eric, it might be worthwhile to point out as well that when we got back involved in this and had Rio Tinto as a partner, we were unsure how much interest they would initially have in the skarn. But as we've come to see it and as they've communicated to us, they are showing a real interest and feel there's real size potential, a la like a Fortitude, which you've mentioned before, to this skarn. So maybe you can touch on that just for 2 minutes and then we'll.
Yeah, I will. When I was a young man, 29 years old, I worked in and around the Fortitude skarn, which is located south of Battle Mountain in central Nevada. It wasn't understood exactly what that skarn was until they started drilling some deeper holes. It looked a lot like this. When Warwick and I went underground, it was very clear that the textures, not only of the intrusive feeding rock, but also the carbonates in the skarn, were very similar to Fortitude. I became the chief geologist with Newmont there when they turned the name into the Phoenix Mine, which is now a quite large ore body, 15 million ounces plus of gold still remain, and they're producing 21 million pounds of copper every year. So I got a chance to see that mine open back up again, and I could see the textures. I could go down and actually have a look at the core. So there's a lot of similarities texturally, even geometrically, to the Fortitude deposit in Nevada.
And that's a 2.3 million ounce skarn, if I'm correct.
Yeah, about 2.3 million ounces after they found the upper part, then they found the lower part when they continued drilling, and all of a sudden a surface expression of 100,000 ounces of gold wound up being 2.2 million. Just persistence with the project.
Mm-hmm.
Over the last year, Rio Tinto has pulled all the core from the past drilling that they could get a hold of and re-logged it just to make sure that it fit their standards. They've come up with a very unique and intriguing structural interpretation, which I quite like, and I think it will hold up. Instead of the red shapes that you see, they're kind of the red cigars, just being one amorphous red blob. They've defined 5 separate jasperoids, which it's worth pointing out that the jasperoid in a skarn system is a bit unique, and the grades in these jasperoids can be ridiculously high. So that's something they've concentrated on. And they also think that this is a vector, and they're probably right, to the big system beneath. So they're using the geochem and all of their structural mapping and everything that they've been doing. They've committed 70% plus or minus of their Salt Lake City exploration staff to this project. So they're really giving it the once over this year. So there's a lot of guys up there. There's a lot of drilling, a lot of excitement that they're generating now. Their targets are really now 4-fold because they did hit that visible gold in a vein. That's off to the left side, which is off to the west. The other ones, target 1, they're currently drilling, and the others will be testing jasperoid and the massive sulfide, which can run really high grades here. We'll look at those slides in a second. This is a magnetic survey, so it's picking up magnetic rock. Obviously, there's a hot spot over there on the right side, which is the east. That hasn't been tested. We don't know what it is. They don't know, so they're going to put some holes into it as well. If it's a massive sulfide body, everyone's going to be quite pleased because it's a pretty good size shape. They're refining this with their drone footage right now, or their drone coverage of this magnetic body. So they're going to get a lot better picture rather than it being more kind of blob-like. It's going to be much more well-defined around these bodies. And that's going to happen, as Warwick said, within the next week. It's worth pointing out too, that the Ajax mine here, all the way down to the Hudson mine, that's a strike length of about 1,800 meters, which is about the exact same dimensions that the Fortitude deposit was in Battle Mountain, Nevada. The Hudson and the Broadway mine collectively, their underground mines, went down to 900 feet, and they produced 144,000 ounces of gold in the mid 1900s. So it's got a mining history. All permits are in place. It's a mining friendly area. So it's just kind of a continuation of Idaho, Utah, and Nevada. It's just a kind of a big mining district. This is the slide here that interested them. It's a cartoon representation of the 3 holes that Broadway drilled in 2017. The one vertical hole you see there encountered 3 separate types of intrusive bodies, and anybody who's played around in porphyries long enough knows that that's a requirement really to have that kind of deposit formed. You got to have multiple intrusive bodies. You got to have multiple water and multiple alteration events that make this thing possible. So when they hit the latite porphyry, that's a texture of rocks that in just about any porphyritic system in the whole wide world, whether it's Grasberg, Bingham Canyon, that has to be there. That's an essential portion. That's one of the reasons I think they came in. This is the box, the contact. Off to the left is marble, so that's a carbonate, was a limestone. Off to the right, latite porphyry. You can look at the latite porphyry there. It's far from fresh. So it's the latest event that we have seen and been able to document. Cross-cuts just about everything else, except that it's all hammered up pretty good too. So it's altered. It's a propylitic and a phyllic alteration, that is classic for a porphyry style system. So that box of core right there was probably one of the main reasons they came in, that in the grade. My favorite slide in the deck, just because it shows the various textures of rock that can be all kind of in the same structures, all in the same area, which is, these are unique textures. You could take these from 4 different ore bodies and you just don't expect them all to be together. But the jasperoid on the left side is a fantastic sample there. I worked on Carlin systems for a very long time, and jasperoids are an essential exploration tool to finding the Carlin style systems. But they never run any gold hardly. The highest grade jasperoid I ever took was 2 grams. This one runs 1/2 ounce. So it's an unheard of grade for that style of mineralization. It's very, very high grade. And these jasperoids, they seem to either be high copper or high gold, and a lot of times they're not high either, both of them in there. So they're just now understanding it. The center slide, you can see that's native copper veins. So that certainly was responsible for a lot of the super high grades that were encountered. So that you can see that the grade there is 11% plus or minus. The massive sulfide on the right side is an interesting rock because at the Fortitude, which I keep referring to, this particular type of material was generally very low grade. It was very cool to look at, very heavy, very dense. But here, look at the grade on this one. This is chalcopyrite replacing pyrrhotite, which is a nice thing to have in a system. It also indicates the strength of the system, by the way. 0.67 ounce per ton and 11% copper. So it's a system that's very blessed with some super high grades. And it's my belief, and I believe Rio's belief, that that's just indicative of the power of the system at depth. This is oxide. This is jasperoid on the right side. So typical of what they're drilling a lot of in the last couple of years. This is their 3rd year drilling. Off to the left side is oxidized iron-rich skarn. This is typical of what would have been mined in the past by the Broadway mine and the Hudson mine, because they didn't have a process for the sulfide. They could only process oxide material. So this is real typical. Their average grade of the Hudson and Broadway mines was 9 grams per ton gold. Just a nice set of slides here from material that was taken out of the mine and or core. So you can see the copper on the left side, very, very high grade. Native gold, visible gold, that's a photomicrograph of a piece of wire gold in one of the veins that they cut last year. The box on the lower left that's the real prize, I think, for tonnages, because it's such a dense rock. The upper left portion of that's pyrrhotite, the silvery material with a little bit of arsenopyrite. The bottom one, though, look at the goldish color. That's pyrite and chalcopyrite replacing the pyrrhotite, once again indicating the strength of the system, and also pretty good grades. 24 meters of 2% copper and 3.24 grams gold. So essentially ore in anybody's book.
So that's a quick overview on Madison. Rio's drilling 4,000 meters as we speak. They're spending up to $30 million US to earn 70% of the project. For those of you who find interest in this, There's drone footage on our website. It's about a 6-minute long drone video, but it does a really good job of showing all the past producing mines, cuts, copper staining. Once you start looking at it and start thinking of it from a big company perspective, you get a really good feeling for A, the size of the project, and B, how all those mines can come together. So there's real interest there. If you find real interest there, you can watch it on the site. There's also a 3D model up on the website. Every time we put out a press release, we will not only put cross sections within that press release, we'll put a link to a 3D model so that you can all see what's happening underground and how it fits within that 3D puzzle underneath. A couple of things to mention. Eric, when you were talking about Fortitude and your time there, obviously it was a big 2.3 million ounce skarn, but then there was a significant porphyry underneath. I think the whole Phoenix deposit ended up being about 25 million ounces, if I'm correct.
Yeah, but 25 million ounces, and the copper budget probably, when it's all said and done, will be in excess of 4 billion pounds.
Yeah, so a very big, significant asset. That is the type and style of deposit that Rio is looking for, is for something large. So again, owning 30% of something that could turn into that could be a tremendous win. The other comment that I'll make is Rio obviously has all their drill permits for today, but they're also filing a plan of operation, which we think is a very good sign because it's a significantly more cumbersome permit to file, which sort of lends credence to the fact that they're going to be doing a significant amount of work, likely not only this year, but going forward. So that excites us. With that, I'm going to take you guys down to Gooseberry. So Gooseberry was an asset that we picked up about 18 months or so ago, past producing silver gold mine. Eric has been screaming at me since we got this to go and drill it ourselves, which we're excited to say that we're going to do. And we're certainly hoping to do that by late summer, early fall this year as we look to get permits, drills, etc. But this is a past producing silver gold mine that has not been touched since 1994. We were actually able to stake this, so we were able to pick this up for the cost of about $20,000. It has some spectacular grades to it. When we picked it up, we didn't know exactly what we had when we got it. The U.S. doesn't have a central registrar for data. So you have to track down your own data when you stake projects in the U.S. We were able to do that. We were able to track down 12 old bankers boxes, literally covered in dust, from the University of Nevada, Reno. And within that, what we were able to get were the original stope maps. So if you see here on this next page, these are a couple of the levels, and you can see the grades. These are production grades of 0.9 meters of 65 grams per ton gold and 4,500 grams per ton silver. 0.9 meters of 113 grams per ton gold and 3,700 grams per ton silver. Just tremendous grades. They didn't leave this project because they ran out of ore. They left this project because the company itself was having trouble, and they walked away from it. And actually what they did is they stopped hard rock mining in 1991 and started reprocessing tails for the last 3 years. So there was what they referenced as, we won't call it ore, but they referred to it as ore ahead of them. They had a vertical shaft down 1,400 feet, and they had drill holes down 1,200 feet. I'll let Eric give the example of Comstock and sort of talk how those could be closely related, as that's about 20 kilometers away. Go ahead, Eric.
Okay, yeah. So this ore has it's very similar to the Comstock lode. Comstock lode obviously was one of the largest mines in the United States until the big Carlin systems opened up in the last 50 years. Produced 8 million ounces of gold thereabouts. So the host rock, the style of mineralization is very, very similar. The age of the mineralization is very, very similar. And that goes down to 2,900 feet. The Comstock had 20 ounce per ton gold material at 2,900 feet, and they watered out the stopes, and that material still there. They're trying to figure out a way to get it. So this is, it has a lot of similarities. It's never been tested below about 1,250 feet, and that's certainly something that intrigues us. So this year, when we get our drills and get our permits in, we're going to drill off to the west. You can see there's some good high grades, and off to the east there's high grades. So we'll take care of business on that.
What I'm showing you now, and hopefully you guys can see this all right as I put it up on full screen, is we're the first people to ever put a 3D model together on this asset. So what we were able to do is take all of those old stope maps connect them and put them together into a 3D model built in Leapfrog, which you'll see spin through here. So Eric, if you maybe you can just talk us through this for 30 seconds, that would be great.
Yeah, so the geometry of this is relatively vertical, which actually is nice to mine vertical veins, because you can just mine them above and have them follow the track and hoist them out. But this is the vein 1150 level was the last place they mined, and they didn't really take a whole lot out of that before, as Warwick referred to, they started to go bankrupt and tried to make an easy dollar. And the easy dollar was just to reprocess old tailings, and that didn't work either, and they walked away and they just left it alone and abandoned the project. So over the years, people dropped their claims and we went and picked it up. But this right here is just a spin around looking at the grades. You can see hypothetically grade going deeper and certainly laterally. So that's where our drill programs is. We have 15 holes planned this year, RC and core, and hopefully we can get a hold of rigs and drill that by the end of the summer. But you can see here's these target areas that we've come up with and that they actually had.
I'll reshare here, guys, so I can get back up onto the right screen. There you go, Eric. Get you there.
Okay, so this one right here, this shows the mined out material is the darker pink, kind of comes through those shafts. You're looking right directly at those two shafts, so you're looking perpendicular to the vein. The lighter pink material that you see off to the left, which is the west, and the right, which is the east, has never been mined. They called it reserves. That's where they were headed out to get it, and it was pretty good grade. They knew it. So they drilled out some material out in front of them, but as the company started to lose traction financially, they just they abandoned all of these stopes. So this material is all still out there.
Final thing I'll show on Gooseberry is that's what it looks like, which is a nice, cool piece. We literally took this right off from surface. So there we are. So that's a bit on Gooseberry. The final asset that we're going to show you here today is Tuscarora. We love this asset. It's just outside of Elko, Nevada. It's the asset that we started the company on. We bought this from Novo Resources, who was kind enough to transact with us in March of 2018. Quentin Henning and Eric had worked together, so they knew each other, and it was always very helpful for us as we were drilling this asset. It certainly fits right into what we look for, which is high grade assets in the Western US. You can see some of the grades here that have been drilled on 2 of the veins that run through the project. These were drilled by ourselves in 2019, Newcrest, and then Novo Resources as well. So you've got a combination there. This is 91 claims, 1,881 acres. This internal claim box that you see, the white internal claim box that you see, is our claim block. The South Navajo and the East Pediment are known fairly well. There are numerous other veins that run through the project that were in production previously. Those veins, when they get to about here, hit a fault. So the old timers lost them. They hit a fault and then they go under gravel cover onto our property. 0 to 200 feet of gravel cover. So those veins remain. We did have a good hit out over here on sort of a blind target when we believe we hit the extension of the schoolhouse vein. Certainly one of the veins, we got a good hit there. This is a project that is screaming to be followed up on, and something that we're going to have a discussion on at a board meeting coming up, and talk about our plans for Tuscarora coming up here as well. Here's the team. Myself, I've been in mining since 1999, had the good fortune of working for the gold group of companies. So I worked on Fortuna Silver from when it was a $10 million company. It's a multi-billion-dollar company now. Started a company called Riverside Resources, was one of the founders there. Started a company called Western Pacific with Eric, and now run American Pacific. Eric, former head of exploration in the Western US for Newmont. Basically, it was Eric's job to look at assets that Newmont should acquire in the Western US. So we saw the opportunity to see a lot of things that were maybe too small initially for Newmont, as they're looking for things that are 3 million ounces plus. So he was seeing assets that were 500,000 ounces, million ounces, but had the opportunity to grow. For example, we previously, when we worked together, previously staked Black Pine. That is now in Liberty. They've done a fantastic job with it. It's working its way to be 3 to 4 million ounces. We had Deer Trail, which is an asset that is now in Mag Silver. And then we now have the Madison mine that we're working with Rio Tinto with. Eric really has been the ace for us in able to finding these assets, as he'd seen a lot of things that other people haven't. Al Nesh is our CFO. He runs Quantum Advisory Partners, does an excellent job for us. Ken Cunningham was the former CEO of Miranda Gold, worked on the joint venture model, worked with the vast majority of the majors, along with a bunch of the mid-tier companies, was able to find assets for them and joint venture them out. Did a great job while he ran that company, has been a fantastic director, is a geologist, is based in Reno. So his good access to projects, is actually the gentleman who found Gooseberry for us. And then Jonas Lang. Jonas is a VP over at Maple Gold Mines. We initially met when he was over at Riverside Resources. Sort of the youngest member of the team, has great energy, has been incredibly helpful and a fantastic director for us. And with that, that is American Pacific. You had a chance to see Kristina off the hop, who's doing a tremendous job for the company. So we're very, very pleased to have her involved. And with that, I will say thank you very much. Appreciate you guys coming to watch. I'll delve into the Q&A here a bit. I'll finish off by saying the stock symbols for American Pacific are USGD in Canada, USGDF down in the US. I'm just having a look at some of the questions here. Peter Grandich. Peter, haven't been this intrigued in a junior for a long time. What causes Madison? Okay. Peter is asking about what stopped production at Madison as well as Gooseberry. Peter, appreciate all your support over this past while. It's been tremendous. So thank you very much. Let's start there. Madison, both Madison and Gooseberry, I mean, it's kind of these unique but not that unique stories in the Western US. These assets end up in production for one reason or another. Companies walk away from them. They don't take a holistic view as to how they can get big, etc. It's something that we've seen numerous times. We saw the same thing at Black Pine. You know, they produced 500,000 ounces there and then walked away, and now it's going to have a 3 to 4 million ounce resource on it. So it's a very similar story. So in the case of Madison, when Eric and I looked at it, there was a company by the name of Coronado that owned it. I think it was owned by about 42% owned by Tag Oil, which was unique to begin with. And they made the decision completely to get out of mining. So that's why they walked away from it. That's where we initially saw it. And then, as I mentioned, another company bought it, got involved, took a more holistic approach, a 20,000 foot view on how it can get big. But as they did that, they made the decision to get into psychedelics. So it became available, and that's how we were able to pick it up. In the case of Gooseberry, last in production in 1990, hard rock production 1991, tailings production 1994. It was owned by a company called Asamara. Those were hard times, as we probably recall, for the mining sector. They were spread very thin throughout the U.S. And essentially had problems elsewhere and ended up going bust. So that's where Gooseberry languished. They stepped away. People picked up the claims, eventually dropped the claims, and then we were able to come in and stake it. Again, I have to point back to Eric on this. Eric does a phenomenal job of being able to find these assets with the help of Ken, in the case of Gooseberry, where other people haven't looked. Eric's had a chance to review so many of these great assets that we've been able to pick up, and it's a real strategic advantage for the company. Okay, next question. Is Madison seasonal or potential winter drilling if they find it worthy? Yes, you can drill at Madison year round. It does get snow, but the main road that comes in, we literally just have them come in and plow it, and they can come in and out year round. Eric, I don't know if you want to comment on that one at all.
Yeah, this last year they had a couple of good snowstorms, and some of the roads will drift across, but with a simple bulldozer or a grader, you can clean it right up. You could drill 24/7, 365.
Very good. Let's have a look here. Timing on news flow from Peter McLean. Significant news flow coming forward for 2021 and into 2022. So We're going to have news flow coming out of Madison here in short order. Everything from the trenching results that will come out in relatively short order. We're going to do a recap of the 2019-2020 drilling just to really kind of show everybody in a 3D model space. We're going to have drill results coming up. We'll have the drone footage that's coming out from their magnetic survey, except there's going to be a lot of news flowing out of Madison here for the rest of the year. And then up and above that, or parallel to that, I should say, is going to be Gooseberry, because we're going to announce that. We're going to be out drilling that once we are able to secure a drill. We'll announce that. We'll get in, we'll start drilling. Then we're going to have results on that as well. We may also do more exploration there. Eric, I don't know if you want to touch on that, just kind of the exploration. And I know it's a bit of one of these at the moment because we don't have it completely pinned down, but perhaps you can just sort of touch on what you think of Gooseberry holistically, and then how you want to go out and explore it.
Yeah, I recently met with a couple of geophysicists that I worked with at Newmont and at US Gold. So I just took them out to breakfast and said, hey, what would you do here from a geophysical standpoint? Both of them agreed that tight spaced IP might really pick that vein up, and it would also help pick up where, if it's going to be offset or if it's cross cut or anything. So that's probably going to be something once we can locate a crew. I'll be honest with you, Nevada is really hopping right now. So everybody's busy. It's good for the industry, but the drills are out, so you just got to get on a list and keep pushing the buttons. But that's a good one. And then we're going to do some probably some trenching and some geochem across it, just soil samples across the veins.
Very good. Next question is from Ken, who's asking about the recent share price move and our thoughts on that. Look, I think for some time, Eric and I would have these, and Kristina as well, have had these discussions that, the company had traded sideways for quite some time. And we knew we had great projects, and what we felt, if we had a key strategic join us to essentially say, I believe in what these guys are doing and what they're saying is correct, that the stock would get that lift. We certainly got that in Michael Gentile, and he's been a tremendous help on that. Has not only led with his own money, but it has also opened a lot of doors for us to be able to go in and tell people what we're up to. And that's led to a tremendous lift. That's been incredibly helpful. To give you an idea of what I mean by the sideways movement, when we announced the transaction on Madison, we had about a $50 million market cap. What then happened was we had a financing that came free trading, and people were up 4 to 5 times their money. So people had sold and made some money on it. Then we paid 20 million shares to get the Madison asset, which at the time was at about a $2.4 million valuation. When those shares came free trading, people sold those as well. So it gave a long sideways chart. And again, back to the point, we wanted somebody to stand there with us and say, pay attention to this. We got that in Michael. Michael's done an excellent job, has been incredibly helpful for us, and has given us a good lift forward. So we're very, very pleased about that. We're going to do a lot more of this, which is communicating with all of our shareholders and potential shareholders as we go forward. And now with this newfound capital and newfound excitement, we'll keep going at Madison, but we'll get going on Gooseberry here, and we're going to make a decision on Tuscarora very quickly as well. I'll just see if I can grab one more question here. So this is from a Chen Lin. Chen has been a supporter from the get-go as well. So thank you, Chen. When the real results come in, how will investors get some indications on hitting a home run? That's a great question. I'll take a whirl at this, and then Eric, I'll let you answer as well. I mean, look, some of the grades here have been really exciting, and I think those high grades can really, really excite this market. Keeping in mind, when we got this project, copper was trading at $2.50, looking like it wanted to go to $2, and here we are with copper headed towards $5, feeling like it wants to go to 10. So that makes a significant difference. When you look at the grades that are being hit here, I think they can really capture the market's attention. So that's one. Two, I'll touch on something that I said before. Not only will we put out, a press release with the drill holes, we'll put out cross sections so people can see it within the press release, but we'll also put out a 3D model, and that really is going to give you the flavor to how that skarn is coming together. Is it getting bigger laterally? Is it getting bigger at depth? And that's going to give you sort of a good indication as to how that's growing. So I think that's going to be helpful as well. Before I pass to Eric, I'll just say one thing. in regards to that. Working with Rio Tinto has been great. They've been fantastic partners. They're great communicators. Our access to news flow working with them has been great. It was one of the concerns we had going in. It's obviously a very big company, and what's material to us may at the time may not feel like it's material to them. That has not been the case. For example, in last year, we got one hole in before the rest. We were able to release that hole very quickly on its own. So that's been certainly a big plus for us. Eric, I don't know if you want to touch on that. You know, how do you value this? How do you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, home run that would be hit here. There'd be obviously several kinds of home runs you get hit. The deep ball would certainly be tagging into the massive sulfide and having some nice grade in that. Just because it's so dense, you can put a lot of tons and a lot of ounces and pounds of material in very quickly with that style of rock. So their dual phase of drilling into massive sulfide potential that's going to be probably the big home run. Also the extension of the jasperoids as well, especially if they still maintain those high grades.
Very good, guys. I think we will leave it at that for now. We've had quite a few questions. So thank you very much. We certainly appreciate all of your time. Thank you to Kristina for setting this up, and thank you for all your support. Happy to answer more questions as we go forward. Feel free to reach out to myself or Kristina or Eric. We're certainly open to having conversations and answering questions anytime that we can. So from American Pacific, thank you very much.